Are you a Disney fan but feel like you've left it too late to get into Lorcana?
Don't worry, we have just the product for you.
Hi, I'm Libby, this is Julian, and together we are BoxedMeeples, and we have been a fan of Lorcana from the get-go. We're huge Disney fans, huge Lorcana fans, but there's an awful lot out there. You did some research.
Yeah, so right now, at the time of filming, there's 7 different sets you can get, over 1,000 different cards, and that can seem an awful lot if you don't even know where to start with Lorcana.
Especially if you haven't really played many TCGs before, trading card games. And when you look into it and you know that as different sets come out, there's different keywords and different things, and you don't know whether maybe you can mix and match sets, you know, do different things matter? Who knows? It can just be all a bit much. And you kind of think, have I just missed the boat on this game that could have been for me because I didn't get there at the beginning? Yeah,
we've been in this situation before with Pokemon. You wanted to get your nephew some cards, but didn't have a clue what to buy. You looked at this whole range of different cards, had no idea what worked with which. Don't worry, we're going to cut through all of that with this new thing that's been released from Ravensburger. So this is Lorcana Gateway. And this is perfectly designed for anyone who might be like you, who want to get into Lorcana, but just want to kind of test the water.
Yeah.
You don't want to go all the way in and spending a fortune on loads of different cards for a game you may not even like, or might just feel completely overwhelmed and don't know where to start. This could be the product for you.
Yeah, I mean, originally with each set that they've brought out since, they have done those starter decks, and they are perfect for sort of getting you into it, having that set there. But this really is your basic core set of really teaching you how to play the game. And it's made it a little bit board gamey as well.
Yeah, so this has come out just recently. And in this, you are getting a board. And it feels like this has been designed with board game players in mind, because essentially what you have is a whole board that you can play. And immediately now when you're looking at this, you're seeing there's lots of explanations on the board of what you can do on your turns, how this all works.
You do start with a base 30 card set instead of the usual 60 card set that you would get in your normal sort of starter pack of whichever series you were looking at. And this one is an amber and amethyst set, and the other one is a ruby and sapphire set. And these are sets which have been known to do quite well in tournaments. So I think, you know, if people want to, they can progress all the way up to tournament status, having learned just from this base set here. The tokens are really lovely in here as well. They're a bit chunkier than the other sets.
It's always been a bit frustrating for me that when we bought so much Lorcana stuff, it's just getting kind of paper. And in fact, this is one of the reasons I love this board so much, because up until you've got the play mats, you've been playing with these kind of really flimsy lore trackers that you get with this. But again, these are proper kind of board gamey style tokens. These are much thicker than you get with a normal deck. So it's much easier to track damage, track all the events that happen in a normal game of Lorcana. So it really does feel like they've stepped up the production for this version and made it much more board gamey, including having these little standees.
I really love these.
Now these match, I
think that's great.
These match the decks that you have. So with this one, you've got Mickey and you've got Elsa. And these actually go on the board, and they, rather than having a little token you used to move along, or more recently the little lore dials, you move your character along, keeps track of how much lore you've got, ultimately getting to 20 when you win the game. So this makes it feel much more board gamey, I suppose, and easier to kind of track if you're new to it. Each of the decks, you'll notice, have these magic words at the bottom that say, do not shuffle. And when you get it out of the box, it's almost kind of legacy style, in that you are gradually taught all the rules as you play. So one of the rule books you have is actually the normal rule book. And that goes through,
which is this one.
Everything you would need to know to play Lorcana. Good for kind of referencing. But what you want to be turning to is the guidebook. Now, step by step in this game, it tells you how to play. And obviously, you'll start off as you normally would do by drawing obviously not this one, drawing your 7 cards. And it's been designed in a manner that all of your cards you start off with work for playing hands. For example, you've got one card that can be inked and one that can't be inked. So immediately, straight out of the gate, you're learning how to ink cards, what they do, and how it works. And all of the kind of tutorials is designed around that. So it feels very much like you're learning to play while you're playing it.
Yeah, and they do both have deck tips for each of the decks here as well. So in here you find a listing of what is in this base 30 cards you can reset for any other time, but also different things about damage and strength, how to get more lore, which cards you're trying to use for what, depending on the specific decks here. So that's really handy. And once you've got the hang of that, then that's when this guidebook comes in terms of adding in the other series that they have in here. So it, as Julian was saying, is a little bit like a legacy. So once you've learned this bit, you're then able to open envelope 1 and then 2, 3 and 4 in here. And you'll see as you go through in the book here, it's telling you about which adventures come next. So in series 1, you're learning all about songs and how they work. And then you're learning about items and abilities in series 2. And then in the 3rd deck, we're talking about some of the newer series, Floodborn, shift abilities, things like that, which really gets you up to date with all of the current series. And by the time you have finished 4, it says endless adventure. So you're ready to go on to pick up different just different packs, add in some different starter decks maybe, or pick up Illumina's Trove for one of the series if you wanted to, and really add to that. But this set here is kind of like a forever set of a base set that you could pull out and play if you're not someone who's going to want to start collecting all of the good cards and doing all of the tournamenting and everything that you might want.
Yeah, it feels kind of board gamey.
Yeah.
So this feels like a Disney card game, similar to kind of Star Wars Deck Builder, which is kind of self-contained. This feels like you can play Lorcana, experience what you would get from it, Lorcana, without obviously building up decks and having all of that to worry about, but having a kind of more board gamey experience.
Yeah.
And the fact that you do unlock these as you go just gives you this graceful entry into all of it, without it ever seeming completely overwhelming.
And this is a really great price point. I've seen it online for less than £20. I think the RRP is $22.99, but I've certainly seen it around for £17-ish. So that sort of price for these great tokens and things, I think is actually really good.
Yeah, and I think for people like us who played a lot of Lorcana, it's still quite an attractive kind of purchase. You're not going to get any new cards here. There's nothing exclusive here that you won't get elsewhere. But this does cover cards all the way up to kind of set 4.
Yeah, so if you've bought a few bits and bobs of Lorcana, maybe you've not got all of the starter decks, but you've picked up sort of some boosters here, there and everywhere, and you're looking to sort of fill in some gaps there. This actually could do that for you quite well because they're very balanced. Obviously, being a starter set, they've worked out that these are going to work well. So adding the missing pieces perhaps to what you already have could be a nice option.
And I really do love this kind of board. This is such a great kind of teaching board. We've not seen any of the kind of official player mats which have these markings on it that show, you know, where this is where your inkwell goes, this is cards in play, your draw pile, your discard pile. We haven't seen these marked out in this way before.
Yeah,
especially
and they've got nice little notes here to sort of remind people what to do, and they're obviously on your turn section here, like almost like a little player guide card. I think that's so great for people newer to the game.
Yeah, and for us, this is a really great way of teaching. Before we used to use the starter decks and kind of play through that way, but some of the rules are actually on some of those starter decks. It obviously needs to introduce what's new to those chapters. So sometimes that can be a bit overwhelming. You're like, well, I don't understand what these lands are. What's that about? What, how does this fit into a normal game? Whereas with this, you know, it's got the step-by-step rules. You're gradually introducing cards. It's a really great way to teach.
And of course, first time you play, you know for sure with this setup and this order that you're not going to need to like mulligan your first hand because of high numbers or anything like that, because it is set out ready for you to go through it perfectly.
And I think it's amazing they've got it so cheap. Obviously, I'm kind of pleased they haven't included like a booster pack in here, because one, that would have raised the price, and also that could have introduced very complicated cards that would kind of remove the accessibility of this. So I think they have a really fantastic product with this, and I can see it doing really, really well. It's interesting, it is kind of packaged as a board game. So
yeah, well, I feel like it's packaged for longevity.
Yeah,
a lot of the other packaging is sort of tear open, throw away stuff, and this is something that's obviously meant to keep, to stay on your shelf, to pull out again and again. I think if you've got children that are into Disney and looking to kind of come through into games and things like that, or you do teach a lot and things, that it's perfect to have it all out there. I mean, it's got a nice insert where you can put the different decks either side. I mean, I'd probably put them in a little bag and stop them falling everywhere. But, it's not too big a box either. So, later you could ditch the insert and put more and more cards in there, which would allow you quite a bit of storage, which is good.
It's very easy to reset, to go through that kind of teaching process each time. These cards of the decks you end up with aren't going to work for tournament play. They're not designed for that. But let's focus on what this is designed for, which is introducing Lorcana to new players, and it just not being daunting.
Well, and having fun playing a game that, not being daunting, but sometimes you don't want to go and create a really difficult deck that has all this stuff. Sometimes you do just want to pull a fun Disney game off of the shelf, play it, put it back again, and pull it back out again in a few weeks' time with family. And for that kind of thing where you don't feel the pressure necessarily to keep add, this is a complete section. Yeah,
here you've got a fun, enjoyable Disney-style game. You could just leave like this and experience Lorcana.
Yeah, and of course, once you get into it, you are going to want to add.
You probably will. You're probably. It's very hard to resist that urge.
But you don't have to.
Yeah, you can just stop at this, and you'll end up with essentially a really great Disney kind of card-based board game
with some really cute standees. Especially Stitch. He's really cute.
The standees are fantastic.
He's going to make me want to play this deck every time.
But have you played Lorcana, and are you now interested in Lorcana because of this new Gateway edition? Do let us know in the comments down below. And if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, particularly as we are going to be talking about a lot of Disney-based products in this upcoming month.
We are indeed, yes. And of course, if you're looking to buy board games, particularly Lorcana or any other Disney-based board games, then of course you should go to your friendly local game store. And for us here in the southeast of England, ours is Chaos Cards. And as usual, we do have a code in the description for you to save a few pennies at the checkout if you are shopping online with them.
But as always, thanks so much for watching.
Bye.